Why is Vegeta's forehead so big? Well, that's because it's so full of dreams. And thoughts of destruction, apparently. Hey folks, MasakoX here. Well, it's been a long time, but Haverock and I would like to say, quite frankly, we told you so. Why are we being so smug about this? Well, it all harkens back to our colour theory videos back from the 2017-2018 era of this channel. In those videos, which we can link to you up top for future reference, we stated that it was very evident that Vegeta and Goku would ultimately diverge in their skill trees. Vegeta would focus on the Animus and Goku the Anima in terms of colour theory. In short, we believed that Vegeta would never follow the path of the angels and use Ultra Instinct. And now, turns out that was true. So after years and years of waiting for this, predicting this would happen, we finally have it. A Vegeta exclusive transformation / technique. Something that Goku will never attain, nor would he want to, having gone down his own path with Whis. And no, we do not count Blue Evolution, as it was merely a small upgrade to Blue, not really much of a game changer. Think of it as Blue Grade 2 or something. It fitted the purpose of Vegeta's personality and his needs at the time. It refined what he already had. Now we have evidence that we probably may never see that transformation again. Certainly not in the manga. In chapter 75, we saw the fruits of the training with Beerus unfold, after a little taster in chapter 74. Here comes Ultra Ego Vegeta, or as they call it in the Spanish translation, Mega Instinct. My gosh, Spanish-speaking friends, you were kind of robbed. But having said that, Mega Instinct does appeal to my inner child, so it's kind of cool. Immediately, we could tell that there would be a divided opinion about this particular technique or transformation name. We actually felt that during our real-time reading of the chapter, which you can find a link to up top. Let's ask ourselves for the purposes of this discussion. Is Ultra Ego a dumb name? Well, yeah. But that's not a bad thing necessarily. Sure, you can describe the name as kind of silly, but so is Kamehameha or Big Bang Attack or Tri-Beam. Yes, I know that's a dubism, but it counts. And we absolutely love those names. There's nothing wrong for something being dumb and good. It's almost as good as Nail Gun. But nothing can best that, really. But this all comes from a time within the manga where we have been feeling very mixed emotions about it. It's a very tumultuous time. Like when we first saw Vegeta's new look for this power in chapter 74. We weren't feeling too hot about it. Especially after years and years of bashing about that other form, that blacked eyebrows. But after seeing it in action in chapters 74 and 75 especially, it's kind of grown on us. Now it works. I didn't like the transformation when I first saw it, but now it's working more and more. And it's all to do with how Vegeta acts whilst in this form. I love it! It works! Why does Ultra Ego succeed in our eyes? Well, first of all, despite having effects and traits that are similar to Ultra Instinct but not completely identical, that includes some rather insane increases in strength and speed, this form actually benefits from getting hit, being a complete polar opposite to Ultra Instinct in that regard. You don't want to get hit whilst in UI, as it sort of defeats the purpose of being in said state. You're supposed to be untouchable. With Ultra Ego though, you thrive in the midst of a battle, and it also plays with the notion of Force Spirit Fission, another Vegeta technique he's recently acquired. The more you hit the prince, nowadays, the more bad of a time you are likely to be having. Not only that, but unlike your typical Berserker forms that you may find in many other properties, including Dragon Ball's own Kale transformation, it very much allows the user to be aware of their surroundings, and allows them to retain control entirely, whilst also being aware of the effects of the power that is coursing through your very body. It must be giving them an absolute high that is very tough to match. Hence why Vegeta is looking like he is having the time of his life pummeling Granolah. Then again though, I think we'd all be feeling the same way after months of seeing Granolah whinging about Saiyans and being resistant to change and different ways of thinking. On top of all that, whilst Ultra Instinct is all about losing oneself to the movements of their own body and allowing said body to do the work for you, let it take the wheel as it were, Ultra Ego is self-indulgent and self-accepting. Again, completely the opposite of Ultra Instinct. In Ultra Instinct, at least at the beginning, you had no idea that you were using it. With Ultra Ego, you're in control all the time, baby. You have the power, now go ahead and have fun with it. No wonder Beerus is so thrilled to use his destroyer powers. It must give him a really good feeling. And now Vegeta's experiencing that too. Like, seriously, in a very weird, messed up way, this is a very therapeutic form for Vegeta, showing, as we predicted in past discussions and many videos before now, he is coming to peace with himself and his place within the Dragon Team and life as a whole. Yeah, he can still hark back to his past roots and what he was like when he was a young tyrant and a bit of a jerk, but he knows that he's moved on at the same time. It is, of course, a weird way to show it, but good for you, Jeets. Good for you. Also, despite all that destructive power flowing through him, there is one thing that Goku and Vegeta are sharing right now. Something that we would never expect the prince to be doing, since it's more of a Goku thing to do with a potential baddie who is not completely bad, has conflicting thoughts. We saw it in the Broly movie when Goku held Broly back for a moment doing, that thing to try and reason with him, and now we are seeing it here, just in a different methodology. Vegeta is still trying to reach Granolah. Not directly, but he is giving him enough passes to reevaluate his life choices, make him realize what he is doing and how it is utterly going to go against everything that he had stood for, Granolah, and will ultimately tear his world apart from now on. Think about it. Planet Cereal is being devastated, but not by Saiyans. His old city is now in even more ruins, and the Shigarians are now fleeing for their lives at the hands of his own power. Trust me, when all is said and done, Granolah's going to be cast out or vilified after this. As we stated in the past, despite the ultra ego state, the prince isn't devoid of his faculties. Vegeta can understand where Granolah is coming from, and is trying the same methods that Beerus used on him earlier to help him attain inner peace. In a way, Vegeta is paying it forward, Beerus' tactics, and trying to talk Granolah down from his very high pedestal. He is either going to be exiled from his home, or he is going to die. Just get some kind of clarity, the Jeetsman is trying to say. And it works. In fact, it works a little too well if you ask us. Yes, Granolah does gain some sense of clarity and inner peace and understanding, but it's nothing to do with reason or logic or even just slowing down a bit, taking it down a notch. No. Instead of helping the Cerulean realizing the error of his ways and getting him to listen to the truth about Goku and Vegeta's situation, that they're not the bad guys, Vegeta has given Granolah what he had been lacking: proper training and acclimatization of his new powers. Without realizing it, the prince has helped him unlock his more nuanced potential and powers that he had, and now he's become even more adamant about his mission, going as far as throwing away poor Oatmeal. Yes, he's now abandoned his best and only friend, saying he doesn't need him anymore, after doing that with Monaito. Yup, his life is being torn apart by himself, and this eschewing of his friend is just the start. Now, that little bit of psychotherapy is not accidental in this script. Not at all. This is very much deliberate, as one of our viewers from the manga review livestream stated to us, and it all comes back to Ultra Ego. Here's what they had to say. Ego means the obvious, of course, but it also means the consciousness that opposes id, or instinct in psychology. So Ultra Ego seems to be opposite to UI. You see, you folks are getting it too. This corroborates our whole discussion. Ultra Ego is meant to be the opposite to Ultra Instinct. So let's elaborate some more. We are sure that most of you are at least a little bit familiar with the concept of ego, but for the sake of those who might not be, we will briefly sum it up for you, just so that you have a little bit more of an understanding towards some classical thinking that may have gone into this name. You see, Freudian psychoanalysis has the id, ego, and superego. They are three interacting agents in the psychic apparatus. Id is the set of uncoordinated instinctual desires, superego is the critical moralizing role, idealized being as it were, and ego is, well, a realized organizing agent that basically equals the conscious part of the mind. While the Freudian takes of these aspects is a little bit outdated for modern thinking in most contexts, it laid the foundations for the psychoanalysis methodologies that we use today. So we still believe it's somewhat valid. I'm actually kind of curious as to what the conversation was when they came up with the Ultra Ego name for the manga. Was this a Shueisha-backed thing, or maybe this was a group effort from Viz's translations? I'd really like to be a fly on the wall for that topic. But let's get back to the tying together of our Freudian quips. In Dragon Ball, Ultra Instinct, as we mentioned earlier, obviously is connected to id. And although early works of Freud have given it a bit of a sinister undertone that it may not be a good thing, in the more modern interpretations, it is not nearly as destructive and negatively animalistic. It's more about these days the innate feelings that one has from birth and being more attuned with your gut feeling. Ultra Instinct, as you can tell, is all about going with your gut and letting that run the show. You don't spend time thinking about it and more time doing it. Oh my. Then we have ego, the easiest one to define of the three, which fits perfectly with Ultra Ego. And that's not just because it's in the name of the thing. It's all about being in the moment, in that battle, the here and now. You feeling the pain, you feeling the joy, powering up because of it, thriving off of these sensations and how that you are alive and conscious to experience said feelings. You get off of life and are the happiest and most vibrant that you may ever be. Okay, so if angels use id, gods use ego, then Kais may be connected to superego perhaps, if we wish to fully package this up for a theory. Well, that may be true. There is a kernel of truth to this. Let us explain. If we look at fused Zamasu in his initial form, before he decided to get all purple on us, it clearly is the idealized version of Zamasu himself, how he imagines himself to be, the perfect form of his perfect mission. He is the pinnacle of evolution and godly power and beauty. But it's not just that. It works with Buu. For good Buu, the Grand Supreme Kai is its more moral, heroic and ideal interpretation. In that sense, he fits really well with superego Buu. But wait, Masako, we still have a Kai-related transformation to talk about, though we don't usually associate it with Shin or Kibito, but with Gohan. Yes, a rather mystical transformation in technique and power that has been around for quite some time. Potential unleashed. That makes you the ultimate idealized version of yourself. Essentially, the superego. Not only that, but Gohan got that from a Kai, so it fits with our theory at least a little bit. Thanks to Vegeta's new power, we now can combine the idea of id, ego and superego to the Kais and godly beings. Wow, no wonder Super's message of incompetency and disorder amongst the heavens was so accurate to me. They're administered, the heavens, by a bunch of super egotists. With Ultimate Gohan as an example, despite the transformation itself not being very dramatic, in fact it's almost absent visually, it is enough to cause the user to become the over-realized version of themselves, while focusing on their virtues. You are the absolute best you can be, and with the case of Gohan, when he first got it, you think you're the bee's knees. Or should it be the boo's knees? Nah, it doesn't work, never mind. So, we have the Kai branch of the godly technique staring at us for 20 plus years now and we never realized it. Neat. And I don't think you folks realize how nifty this really is, because we've now got another triad that we can fit in with the Kai God Angel trio, and it seems to work rather well. It is surprising that we got that thanks to Vegeta losing his eyebrows. What's also more important is that according to Freud, the ego and the id are in a state of a constant struggle. The ego is that part of the id which has been modified by the direct influence of the external world. The ego represents what may be called reason and common sense, in contrast to the id, which contains the passions. In its relation to the id, it is like a tug of war, which the ego has to hold in check the id to not let it loose, with the difference that the teams fought against one another in equality, while the ego was against the much stronger id. This is just too perfect. Especially when we reconsider the rivalry between Goku and Vegeta, which is as legendary and as old as time itself by now. Basically, the Granolah arc is becoming one big psychotherapy story. But it seems that both the id and ego will have to team up against this superpowered Cerulean, going against Freudian logic for a bit. And although Granolah might not be the only patient for the Saiyan psychologists in this saga most likely, he might prove to be one of the more challenging ones. I think going forward, it's going to be a bit straightforward, especially now that we are seeing that he's now losing both his sense of self and gut feelings. In a way, he also seems to follow his idealized path, being sort of a super ego type of guy. Now, he is slowly reducing himself to just spouting the same rhetoric over and over again. Saiyans and Frieza must die! He's slowly losing the nuance behind that act, the reason why he wants to avenge his people. He is now wanting to end Goku and Vegeta and Frieza simply because. Do I detect some OG Broly Kakarot in there? Perhaps. But yeah, the fight is not over, folks. And this time our heroes won't be just fighting an enemy for the sake of their well-being. It is a struggle for Granola's mind and soul. And something tells me that, in the end, we might see what will come out of combining Ultra Instinct and Ultra Ego. That is an interesting bit of food for thought. But for now, let's be happy that Vegeta has turned him getting hit in the face into a strength, a testament of true ability to adapt. But what do you folks think? Do you feel like you understand Ultra Ego a little better? Or is this still something that you can't get behind? Leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going. And I shall see you in the next video. Catch you later!